to another dimension, surpassing the vastness of time and space. The Grand Thaumaturgus is here.
Alright, Earthlings. Happy to see you lot again. My first few videos took into consideration that you might be absolutely new to the old role-playing game. And essentially, the more you run these games, the more you'll find your own path. But now I fancied a bit of a deeper butchers at the old dungeon setting. And now I, in the past, have created a more rich dungeon delving experience. They're all basic tools, and there's plenty of advice out there other than mine. Don't have to just listen to me, of course. And I'd encourage you to go and try out loads of other people that have ideas on it. But being from an entirely different dimension, I might be able to offer a few saucy little numbers that might not have been thought of over in your dimension. We'll have a look. So in my first video about dungeons, I had a little chat with you about traps. And I suppose traps are well worth a little bit of a deeper dive. I spoke about lethal traps, which incidentally I think are a valuable resource for budding and experienced games masters. But I suppose the caveat with that is letting the party know, letting your players know, that it is lethal, to make sure that you're not surprising a lethal trap on them. Give them a little bit of notice. I mentioned the skeletons in the previous one, but there could be a whole plethora of different things leading up to it. Scorch marks that are humanoid shaped. How about that? Might give an idea that there's something out there going to disintegrate a humanoid form, much like the players perhaps. But there's also other forms of traps, such as environmental hazards. For instance, you could have a mine shaft where the crossbeams holding the mountain up above your players are rotten and breaking, and the players have to be extremely careful on their way down that corridor, lest they disturb those gentle beams into falling. And there's only so many of those beams that will fall before the old mountain comes down, or maybe each time one falls, a couple get hit with rocks. Don't have to be lethal. There's plenty of advice and options out there on the old interweb. But I'll tell you what, in the next video, we'll have a little look into traps, as I don't want to spend too long on traps in this video. Other things you can include in your dungeon are secret doors. Secret doors have always been a bit of a mainstay for old school gaming, and is one of those many things that have been drawn from your own history. Many a manor house has secret passages, and that has translated into the role-playing game. Secret doors and secret rooms are a great thing to include in your dungeon, but I suppose you've got to be prepared that they might not be located. Your group might not be searching in every room, and if they are, their roles might not help them in the specific room or rooms which have secret chambers or doors, and they might miss out entirely. So I wouldn't put anything necessary for the completion of your adventure behind a secret door, unless you've given some kind of hint that there are secret doors in there, of course. If, for instance, very early in the dungeon, they have come across an open secret door, the door decorated and carved to look exactly like the surrounding stonework, and at first maybe they don't even see it until they've entered the room. But once inside, they realise part of the wall is sticking out, and lo and behold, it's a secret door, which, if closed, blends seamlessly with its surroundings. Therefore, you give a hint that there might be other secret doors that are currently blending seamlessly with their surroundings in other rooms. Another mainstay of dungeons is the old wandering monster. There's countless tables available to be searched on your interweb, and you can include in your dungeons. But I suppose the decision is, do you want things moving around your dungeon? If it's a realistic game, could whatever it is move freely round your dungeon in the first place? Why are they moving around? Are they guarding? Maybe they are simply guards. But if they're monsters, what are they looking for? Are they looking for food? Sport? What are they after? You've always got the option of creating your own wandering monster or random encounter tables to use in your own games, and I would thoroughly recommend you making your own tables. trawling through monster books tends to supply ideas for this or future adventures, so I always recommend having a look through the rules, especially down to monsters, if you're making wandering monster tables. You'll also learn the monsters that way. Plus, that little bit of inspiration goes a long way for future adventures. I suppose the trick is making the decision of whether to add super squishy little monsters that are simply a hindrance, there to wear down your characters as your players negotiate your dungeon, or if there's something much more horrible that the players should absolutely run away from, lest they become a tasty snack for said monster. Though it's worth giving them a warning if that's the case. If it's a horrible big old monster that wants to use their femurs as toothpicks, I would give them plenty of warning to insinuate that it is probably best for them to scarp her rather than face said horrible horror. A set of potential random encounters with horrible little goblins or corporate security, perhaps zombies or mutant spacemen, will add a continued feeling of threat and potential surprise danger to your games. It is something to consider, but consider carefully, as too many wandering encounters could soon strip your party of resources and health. It's a decision you'll have to consider before introducing random wandering monsters, but consider if it fits your dungeon and, more importantly, your group, as introducing one too many threats may well run the risk of overwhelming your characters. You've also got the option of making your dungeons multiple levels, with ladders, stairs, or drops to negotiate. Especially if it's a drop to negotiate, it adds the potential of more skill rolls to negotiate the drop. Have they got rope? Or was there rope in an earlier room they didn't pick up and they'll have to go back and get? Maybe then coming face to face with some of those wandering monsters I just mentioned, there's the risk. Or do they forget the rope, climb down? Are there plenty of handholds? Is it a difficult climb? By creating a larger dungeon with multiple levels, perhaps each level is designed to grow in difficulty with the party. What you've got there is your dungeon becoming a campaign. We've not really talked about campaigns yet, but we'll get there. Essentially, it's a whole load of adventures, one after the other, running in sequence of your players exploring this enormous dungeon. Some players may well get tired of exploring the same dungeon. Maybe they want to go outside, get a breath of fresh air. Understandable. One way you can start to prevent dungeon fatigue is to make the dungeon very variable. Perhaps it starts off as a crypt, but as you drop down that hole you negotiated, it turns into fungus-filled caverns and corridors filled with new monsters and rewards. Therefore, it might encourage them to stick around, explore some more. But yeah, I'd certainly mix it up a little bit. Tough to do if you're running a realistic game, but it's possible. And also, some dungeons simply wouldn't allow that, or would make it very hard for that to happen, such as, if your dungeon is a derelict spaceship, there's only so much spaceship, but I suppose you've got the option of adding some strange alien portal in one room which they could somehow, maybe inadvertently, start up. And by stepping through the portal, they're in a whole new location. But then, can they get back? Who knows? Maybe the portal leads into a similar ship that is not derelict. Aside from traps, monsters and secret doors, puzzles can be a welcome challenge for players exploring a dungeon. They can bring a welcome reprieve from hordes of slavering monsters and the potential risk of falling down a pit. I'd certainly include puzzles, such as riddles or simple logic puzzles in your dungeons. There is a galactic ton of ideas, puzzle-wise, players on the interweb, but it could be a case of having something that needs to be rotated a specific compass point direction before a door opens, all the way to some ultra complex logic puzzle that could spend an entire session trying to resolve. I'd maybe steer clear of those kind of puzzles, unless of course your group loves those kind of puzzles, in which case you've probably got your work cut out for you. But if puzzles are their thing, make them as taxing as they want them. I would, though, perhaps insert some alternative way of getting around the puzzle, even if it's just brute force, because if they're too frustrating, the players probably won't enjoy it that much, and may well get frustrated and annoyed that they cannot resolve them and move on in the dungeon. The more you run, the more you'll understand. You'll know what kind of puzzles they'll enjoy. The puzzles are certainly an interesting and sometimes amusing addition to your dungeons. You've also got the opportunity in your dungeon to add a little sprinkling of lore, slip in a little bit of history. Maybe there's some hieroglyphs talking about some other old ancient kingdom that's long gone, and then you can reference the kingdom that now replaces it. Maybe it's from a time long forgotten, and give some sort of insight to a great evil that could return from beyond. You've got the option of increasing the knowledge of your player's universe. This derelict ship that they've come across could be from an alien species yet to be discovered, and could open up a whole campaign of these players and their characters being the first to come across this species. It's a great opportunity to introduce some handouts, perhaps some scrawled blooded notes, or perhaps they can access the ship's computer to find out what happened. There's journals, there's even little plates on the side of tombs to tell you who's buried there and who buried them. There's loads of things that you can add in dungeons to create more interest in the lore of your world that you're creating. Also, the dungeon's a great spot to be able to pick up some loot, find some treasure. There's bound to be things in the tomb maybe buried with those people long ago, and now it holds some immense value to the party, who can then go back to town, flog it, and buy some dodgy swords and armour for the next couple of levels. Or maybe there's something fantastical in this place that needs some research to fully understand. There could be magical artifacts from a previously forgotten technology. Who knows? But there could be loads of stuff that could get their grubby little mitts on, which can also help introduce a little bit of lore too. I think we'll go a bit deeper into what kind of loot is available when we look at rewards for your players' characters, as there's plenty to talk about when it comes to finding unique and interesting artifacts and items that can really add to your games, I find. And the last thing that I think about when creating deeper dungeons is sprinkling a spoon of detail onto the little fella. I prefer a realistic game to a certain extent. Obviously there's a fantasy element to most role-playing games, but I like it to be a little bit realistic, such as having consequences to what you do in adventures. And I suppose we'll delve into that in another video, as I think consequences are extremely important. But things like those wandering monsters we talked about, if they turn up in a room where your characters have been, would they notice it? I should think so, especially if the party's gone round causing destruction and mayhem during their path through your dungeon. What would those monsters do? Will they actively seek the party? Will they scout the party, then return and grab greater reinforcements from their ilk? How will they approach them? Will your party stumble upon adventurers who have come before them who have failed? Perhaps they've scrawled some sort of note of warning. Maybe that could refer to one of the horrible traps that you've laid further in the dungeon. Perhaps it will refer to one of the horrible monsters wandering around the dungeon. Perhaps it could hint at lore beyond the dungeon. Also, it's worth mentioning about monster ecology. What monsters work together? What would happen if vastly different monsters you've put in your dungeon come across each other? Could there be rival factions of monsters within the same dungeon? Add some flavour. Is it a dank, horrible, drippy, mouldy, mildewy dungeon? Then keep using words similar to that to describe each room to whisk your players away to where their characters are. Let them immerse themselves, you know. Is there graffiti, warnings, scribblings on the wall? These too could hint at later risks the party might face. Perhaps an adventuring party came in before them and got only so far and have stripped most of the good stuff out of it. But they did not find something or overlooked a obvious trail and left. There could be a whole host of flavourful aspects of your dungeon, and I'm sure we'll get round to look at describing and creating immersion in another video. All these aspects of dungeons can come together to create quite a good adventure, I think. Even if you take one or two things and add them to a dungeon, it can surely only add to the experience of your players as their characters explore. What do you think I've missed when concerning dungeon delving? Feel free to add your comments below, and let's all come together with suggestions for those who come after us. But if you're a little bit too shy to add finger to keyboard, why not click the old like instead and show your support to us humble beings from beyond the portal. And I'll rest my eyes upon you in the next one. Laters.